So let's do an example now that we know all the parts of the ellipse and identify those and graph our ellipse. Now I have the equation of an ellipse in standard form, and I hope you immediately see the difference from the previous video. Instead of a squared and b squared, I have m squared and n squared, but they really are a squared and b squared. The only reason I have changed them is I think it can be confusing trying to figure out is a under x or is a under y. I'm asking you to postpone that thought and go back to that very first video and think about what we learned. It's just the square root of the bottom number under x tells you how to go in the x direction, left and right. The square root of the one under y tells you how to go in the y direction, up and down from the center. Then we'll deal with the major axis and the foci. We'll get to it, don't worry. All right, so let's take a look at our example here. We want to sketch the graph. So the first thing we want to identify is the center. Well, the center in this case is -3. Remember, it's the opposite of what it looks like it would be. And then there's nothing being added or subtracted to y, so it's going to be -3, 0. I'm going to go ahead and plot that point on my graph. I'm not going to put a C, even though it is the center, because C has a different meaning to me now. I'll use that when I get to my foci. All right, major axis, minor axis, I don't know, but I'm just going to plot based on the denominators. So the square root of 4 is equal to 2. So I will go in the x direction away from the center 2 steps. 2 to the right, 2 to the left. Okay? The square root of 20 is 2 square root of 5. I would really like to have a decimal for that. It's about 4.5. So that tells me I'm going to go in the y direction, up and down from the center, about 4.5. Up 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Down 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And I will sketch in my ellipse. Now I'm able to see, because I have it graphed, that my ellipse is tall, which means it has a vertical major axis. Okay, so that helps me be able to identify the different things that I'm going to label over here. All right, so the vertices of my ellipse, or the endpoints of my major axis, those are the same things. I'm going to need to label this point and this point. Now hold on. Remember, I used a decimal, but that wasn't the exact, and of course we need to be exact when we're labeling things. So I was at the center, -3, 0. I went up 4.5, which was really square root of 20 or 2 square root of 5. So that location is still in the same x place. I didn't move sideways. I just went up 2 square root of 5. I also went down 2 square root of 5. So why don't I just put plus or minus? I could write them as 2 separate ordered pairs, but it's not necessary. Okay? So that's the endpoints of my major axis. Let's talk about the endpoints of the minor axis. That's the sideways. It's the other one, the shorter one. So this is sideways. This was a nice integral value, so I can easily say that's at -1, 0. And this is at the point, if this was -3, -4, -5, -5, 0. All right, so the foci are inside the ellipse, and they will always be in the direction of the major axis. All right, so foci will always be in the direction of the major axis, which makes sense if you think about it, because if they have to be inside the ellipse, you want them to, they will go to the outside if you send them the wrong way, so keep them on the inside. All right, so my major axis is vertical, so I know my foci are up and down from this center. All right, how much is the question? So the foci are C away, and remember C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. I asked you to remember that it's just the big one minus the small one. So smaller, bigger, smaller. The bigger one is 20. The smaller one is 4. So yes, this is A squared and this is B squared if you just really want to use some A's and B's, which is perfectly fine. So I get, under my annoying watermark there, C squared is equal to 16, which means C is equal to 4. So I'm going that much away from my center in the direction of the major axis. So my major axis is vertical, so I'll go up. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's focus number 1. And down 1, 2, 3, 4. There's focus number 2. So that's at negative 3, 4. And at negative 3, negative 4.